Hello, ladies. Welcome to Most Stories Start with Passion. My name is Bonnie Daneker, and I'm the CEO of Right Advisors. We are a literary consultancy and transmedia club located in Atlanta, and I'm the guest speaker today for our 20-minute breakout session. Over 40 females has weekly educational seminars that range from fashion to finance to building your business, strengthening your spirituality, and endless other subjects that you can benefit from. So today we're going to talk about stories. Everyone has a story. And I'm going to start our presentation off with the headline here. Everyone has a story, and the subheader is using your content for passion and for profit. So take a look at these pictures. Many of you will look at them and recognize the faces in front of you, but some will not. So I'll go through all of them quickly with you, and we can find together what they have in common. The first one on the left is Steve Covey, and we know him from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He has been very, very successful in not only writing his books, but putting together his seminars and his workbooks so that more people can take advantage of his wisdom and his way of doing things. In the middle, we have Margaret Mitchell, and we know her from her wonderful work with Gone with the Wind. She was a Civil War era reporter, and she not only wrote this book that has become the second largest volume printed book in the world after the Bible, and she was the first female to make it into a major motion picture. Next to her, we have Alice Walker, and she is a vibrant Pulitzer Prize-winning author of The Color Purple. Not only did she create her wonderful, wonderful diary-type writing, but she made it into a major motion picture starring Oprah Winfrey, and she leveraged her creative talent and the story to a Broadway play that ran for several years. On the bottom left, we see Suze Orman, and most of you know her from her fantastic radio and television shows. She is a financial guru, and she has written many books, columns, blogs, social media posts, a lot of different webinars and seminars. She is just financially the person to go to. She has really leveraged her expertise across media and gotten a humongous following. Some people say that she is the most widely followed female financial advisor in the world. Next to her is Daniel Pink. We may not recognize him as much, but he is a business prophet, and he's written books such as A Whole New Mind and Drive and To Sell is Human. This man was originally a lawyer. He graduated with a law degree from Yale, yet somehow he had a drive to do business and to do business well. So he had an additional degree and started writing in business, and he was able to leverage his expertise and his content to do speaking circuits and tours all over the nation. The one on the bottom right is J.K. Rowling. And I think all of us have probably read some of the Harry Potter books or seen the movies or maybe even eaten some of those jelly beans. She has done an amazing job with merchandising, with food, with motion pictures, with costuming, with support groups, with subscriber groups, and, of course, with the whole series itself. And what do these people have in common? I think that you probably heard me say it. What they have in common is that they had a body of work. They had some content, they had a story, and they leveraged it to the best of their abilities across media for multiple sources of revenue, multiple sources of exposure, and multiple ways they could reach their end consumer. So where do I fit in this, you might ask? Well, my story, just to give you some background, is that I am a working writer. I'm working on my 10th book right now that I started with my Compassionate Caregiver series, which is a series of books on caring for cancer patients. What happened with that is I was taking care of my father, and there wasn't material to care for him. So the web was very early. There wasn't a lot of communication in the doctor's offices. And the only thing that was really there was to talk to other patients and caregivers. So I wrote my first 5 books on caring for cancer patients, and I ended up starting a business called D.D. Donaldson Publishing, Inc. So this is a company where I was able to create materials for caregivers of cancer patients. It was both for people on the lay side and people in the doctor's offices because everybody needed help. So my company created books, handbooks. Speaking, we had people within our company that spoke. We also brought in speakers for support groups. We did articles, merchandise, etc. I am still an expert contributor for caring.com, and I've developed caregiver programs based on this original content that was in my 5 books. So I had had that business for a while, but decided to go back to get my MBA in strategic planning and entrepreneurship. When I was near finishing that, a company came to me and said, we want to buy your company, D.D. Donaldson Publishing, and the rights to some of your books. And I was thrilled. I needed a change, and I wanted to see what else I could do. So the president of Women in Technology asked me if I would help her put together a book of leadership lessons from women in technology. And we developed a book called Climb, which is a monster of a book. It's about 500 pages, and we interviewed 60 women for their lessons and their guides on how to reach a position of leadership in a traditionally male-dominated world of technology. Well, what happened in that is I was interviewing a lot of women who said, Bonnie, can you help me? I'm really wanting to write a book. I love books. I've always wanted to write a book. I don't know how. Who do I talk to? Who do I trust? And so I decided there was a market need, which was validated by my first 6 clients, to start this literary consultancy and transmedia company. That company is called Right Advisors. And what we do is we help people to create the content that they know they have inside them personally or professionally, and we extend that content across different media and different communication channels so that they can reach their audiences best. So continuing on, I wrote my next books, Publishing as a Marketing Strategy and Building a Business, Building a Life, which were both collaborative efforts with several other women. And the point there is that we were addressing venture capitalistic opportunities and business coaching and fundraising opportunities for people, again, that didn't quite know how to start their business, how to start their book, and really needed a resource that they could talk to. So these multifaceted, multi-author books give them a lot of different ways to look at their problem and find solutions to their problem, to build their business and grow their business. And the last bullet on that slide is just that there are more books to come, just because I'm working on book number 10, which we should have in September, but also to encourage you to be thinking not just for one book that you've always wanted to write, but to write several books, because most of us on the call are multifaceted, and we want to share much of our message with many different people and in many different ways. So let's go back to your story for a minute. What is your message? Why do you want to write? Why did you start to write? So here are some reasons that people start to write. And these are personal reasons. And I'm not going to go through the whole list with you because I know how boring that can be. I was just on a webinar last week, and she read every slide for an hour, and that was just traumatic. But I've decided not to do that. I've decided just to highlight a few major points in each of the slides so that you guys keep interested and you have a lot of opportunity to write down questions. And I hope that when you write down questions, you can email me them at the end of this presentation. So back to this slide. We have personal reasons. Why are you writing? What kind of passion do you have inside you that you really must get this message out? A lot of the reasons that people write are for social reasons. They want to be part of a cause or a group or to connect with others, but some of them are very, very task-oriented, and they want this as part of their bucket list of accomplishments. We have people that look at writing a book as a pinnacle, as something that very few people do and that you have to do at the height of your career. Well, that's not true. Many people regard it that way, but I really see it as something that is a gift to your population, a gift to your audience, something that would not have been completed, would not have been created without your particular spin on it. And a lot of people will come to me with ideas saying, oh, Bonnie, I've got this idea for a romance, but it's been done before, or I have an idea for a leadership book, but it's been done before. But the point is there's always room in the market for your take on a particular subject if you write it with the audience in mind. And I'm going to go to the next slide because these are kind of some of the professional reasons that you write. So keeping your audience in mind is important for both personal and professional endeavors. So these are professional reasons that help you to narrow what you're doing and why. okay? So if you're writing for professional reasons, you're writing to position yourself as an expert. You are engaging in a formal communication that shows in a traditional manner how you have mastered this particular subject matter. And when you do that, you have to do it in a way that speaks to your audience. So you have to be very careful about how much jargon you use, or what examples you use, or what kinds of media you use, because you may not be able to reach your core audience if you make poor choices with either of those three items. So be thinking about, why do you keep writing? What are your professional reasons? What are you trying to accomplish before you start to choose your end topic and, of course, your media. Now, let's take a few minutes on this slide. This is a very, very important slide. A lot of people say, oh, I've always wanted to write about something that no one might have an interest in, or that has never written before, or that really hasn't had a market before. Well, so I'll talk to them and say, is your topic really viable then? If no one's ever written this, or no one seems to have an interest in it, why are you really wanting to write it? Well, you may be forging new ground, and that may be important. But you may also be writing for something that doesn't really have a place in our literary world. And this is very hard. This is a very tough discussion when I'm working with clients, because if they have it in their heart that they really want to do it, the best I can do is guide them to write down what they know and then have it printed and produced by a local printer with a limited number of copies. So it's not really released for the commercial audiences. It's really more just for them and their family and friends to support them on this journey. So let's go back to these bullet points for a second. What are you trying to say? Whether you're writing for yourself or you're writing for your audience in a professional way, you need to know what is your message. So if you are writing in fiction, do you have some social message that you want to say that you are for or against something? If you are writing professionally, do you want to take a stand for a cause there, or do you just want to really help people discover something new in the area of technology, or new in the area of finances, or new in the area of health and wellness? You know, these are very important decisions that you need to make. What are you trying to say? What kind of writing are you confident doing, and how much time can you give it? So writing needs to be something that reflects your expertise. Why are you confident? Because you know it. And what kind of writing are you confident in doing? Well, you probably have experience writing different types of content. So if you're a business person at all, you've either had elevator speeches that would showcase your brand, that would announce your company in a 30-second speech, or you might have longer information that you've held residing on your website, or you might have even longer information in a blog post, and then you might have some very formal communications in white papers, or in dissertations, or in books. And these are all various types of writing, and they are all requiring different skills, different amount of confidence, and different amount of time. So the first bullet point says a lot. You know, what is your message? What kind of writing are you confident doing? And how much time can you give it? You really need to know the answers to these three questions before you embark on this kind of writing journey. The second bullet is more on the business side, okay? So the first one addresses your creative approach. The second one is really your business approach. Writing is a business. If you want to sell your writing, you have got to write for your audience. If you're just writing for you, keep a journal. Don't show it to anyone. Use it for your personal expression. If you're writing for you, do your blog posts. Don't make them public. If you are writing for other people and you're writing as a business and you expect to make money on this business, then you must know your audience. You must know your competition. You must know who is willing to buy and how you are going to sell it. Because people will not give up their Starbucks, or they won't give out their dinners out if they don't really want the content. And this is something that I also talk to my clients about in a regular way, is to say, I know you want to write about this, but does your audience want to pay to read this? And that's very tough sometimes, because there's a happy medium between the expertise that you offer and what people know they need. But give some thought to this bullet point especially. You know, who are you writing for? What is your competition? What other books reside on the bookshelf? Who is going to actually buy your work? And how are you going to sell it to them? Is it the traditional bookstore route? Is it through Amazon.com? Is it through ebooks or audiobooks? How are you going to get it to them? And this all comes into the play of program managing your writing career. So when you think of program management, that is one step higher, one step above the project management that you can provide to your business, your writing efforts. So project management is really the way you're going to write the book, what vehicles you're going to use, what length, who your audience is, how much time you're going to spend on it. When you do program management, you think of that content and how else you can explore this in getting the content to the various audiences using the various communications vehicles. And I have on the bottom of the slide, she writes recommendations, and I'm basically going to brush over that. I'll tell you more about that later if we have time. It's a female-owned press. They have fantastic recommendations. But the next slide actually is more about the repurposing that I was just talking about, the communication venues that you can use to reach your audiences. Okay, so let's take a look at these. And think to yourself, does my content just make a book or just make a blog post? Could my content be a feature film? I have 4 clients right now that we're negotiating feature film contracts on. It's really exciting. Could your book be a movie, right? Is your book more suited for workbooks? Is this something where you're trying to train people on your methodology so you can give classes, you can give workshops? Could you make it a recordable? Could you make it an audible? Could you use a piece of your writing in a LinkedIn discussion? Could you write a magazine article? Could you create character merchandise? I have a client who has a children's book, and it's wonderful. It's about a homeless puppy, and she has worked with one of her vendors who makes stuffed toys, and now she has a line of stuffed toys for these homeless dogs that are in her book, and it's just fantastic. So you think, okay, in her program management approach, she knows how she put her project together, how she put her book together. How else is she going to get that message to kids and moms? Well, in her program management, she decided she wanted to do stuffed toys, and she made it happen for passion and profit. Okay, so let's think a minute about who is consuming what type of content these days. And these are statistics from 2014, so we have about 6 months into 2015, and they might be updated. But this is very important when you're thinking about who your audience is. You know, are you selling to men? Are you selling to women? How do you reach those people? Well, I think it's no surprise that most of the book buyers out there are female, and more than half of the people who buy magazines are male. They just want the quicker, shorter, more picturesque way of delivering content. We've got half and half online, and we've got more male ownership in the video space. Again, more pictorial, more graphic. More women use social media, and we've got 50-50 on the apps, and more women use text. So I have a client who is an executive coach, and she keeps in touch with her consumer base by giving them daily texts that are really wonderful and uplifting. But all of these texts are part of her original content from the book that she created with me, and then the workshop that she built on after that, and some of the classes that she gives to executives. So she has really maximized her content across all of those communication channels. Now, some people ask me, Bonnie, what do you mean by online media? And if I had a business book, how would I go about selling more of that content? Well, the easiest way to think of online media in the true sense of the text word is what media can you use that is connected to the internet, connected to websites, connected to it's connected to social networking and social media that portrays your text. You can add the graphics later, but it's for your text. And the 2 biggest pieces of these are the websites and the blogs. So when I have someone, for example, who has a great business book, they're expert in their field, they've been doing it for a while, and I recommend that they identify the top 10 trade media or websites that might be interested in their work, that might want to hear what they have to say, especially if they are on the cutting edge of their industry. Then I recommend they do the same for blogs. What 10 bloggers or what 10 blog sites would be most interested in hearing what you have to say? And keep in the back of your mind, you really have to keep these editors' busy schedules in your mind, saying, I am going to help them out. I am going to make their world easier. So you are going to need to pitch them. If you want your work in their communication channel, you're going to have to talk to them about it. You're going to have to ask them for support, for exposure, for payment, and you're also going to have to sell them on the topic that it's relevant and your consumer base wants it. So who do you talk to and what do you do? Well, it's largely based on your genre. If you're nonfiction, if you're working in those learning areas, then you want to go to places like Help a Reporter Out and the news stories, blogs, white papers, etc., as I've listed here. For fiction, when you have those stories that are novels and short stories, again, go to blogs, but also look at serial inserts for magazines, other magazine copy, Uber flip files, gaming, and then scripts. These are very interesting. Poetry, people give poetry short shrift, but we have poetry in our daily lives through song lyrics, greeting cards, product jingles, advertising copy, and other writers. We really need poetry in our lives as well. So first you have to decide which genre your work is in, and then think about how you can get your content into those communication vehicles. Your pitch and partnership should be also considering how much type and copy you have available and how much supporting graphics you have. So if you have a book length of content, then you have 40, 50, 60,000 words from which to choose. If you have a short story, it's fewer. If you have a blog post, it's even fewer. So keep that in mind. And then what other graphics are available? Again, people are visual people, male more than female, but you need to have that to complement your work. It adds a really interesting artistic element to it, and it keeps people engaged in your message. And one other point on this slide is that I've highlighted the things in green that are often paid. So you can offer to do all of these things and share your content in all of these areas of communications media, but not all of them are paid. And so you probably want to experiment on those that are not paid first and then be more professional, more polished, more prepared for those that are paid, so you're more likely to get the job. Okay, so what's the point of all this? Fun and money, and sometimes they go beautifully together, right? So your compensation for this will be in three forms. You're either going to be paid direct with money or cash and merchandise, okay? Brand recognition, which is also very, very important, and some people say you can't buy that. It's exposure from their marketing and their radio time, print, and space that they're going to be promoting your work on. There's business building, where there's opportunities for partnerships, trades, and referrals. And then the value, which is you have gotten something else to put on your resume, something else to put on your speaking CV to say, we have been featured in X magazine, on X film or commercial, in X game, etc. And sometimes all of that is worth more in marketing than it is in cash. So as we approach the end of our webinar, I just want to give you a few resources that I think are going to help you. So 1001 Ways to Market Your Book is a fantastic resource. And it gets a little overwhelming because you can't do all 1001 ways immediately. What I recommend for that is that you take a look at that book or at that website and choose 4 or 5 that work for you that you can concentrate on doing over the course of the year. And that way you can really gauge your success, and you can also gauge the amount of time that you put into each of these efforts to see if there is enough return for you to continue on with that. There's also good information on bookdaily.com and bookmarket.com. I love the Well-Fed series by Pierre Bauman. He's a local Atlanta guy, and he knows his stuff. He's been obviously writing and publishing for years, enough that he's been able to write these 2 expert books on it. And he is also available for consultation if you need help in extending your content. Then there's the New Rules of Marketing and PR, which is updated yearly based on our movement in social media and transmedia. So I would definitely recommend that if you are interested in creating your content and extending your content and selling your content, that you take a look at some of these resources. And then, of course, there's me, right? So I want to remind you that writing is a business, You need to put serious thought into it, just like you would put strategy planning into any of your endeavors before you start the tactics. And the more you plan, the better that you will see your results. So put the serious efforts into it for a good return, and I know you can do it. So good luck with everything. Thank you for having me, and here is my email address. If you want to contact me, I'd be happy to talk about your idea or take a look at 2 or 3 pages of your work and give you some advice just because you're part of the Over 40 Female Network. Okay, and so with that, I'd like to close by, again, thanking you for attending our story, starting with passion and purpose. And for more information, please reach me at bbdaneker@rightadvisors.com.